Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Siege Fairy, VGC. VGC stands for Very Good Content. And today I'm going to be bringing you a team that I made up. It is going to be used in competitive doubles battling, which is the VGC format, as far as I understand. I spent a lot of time building this up because I needed to get Terra types, and Terra shards are quite time consuming to get. At least they are for me because I don't have a lot of level 100s to go ahead and use. Anyway, I'm going to be calling this team Baking Bread because I think it's really cool whenever you have a team that you give a name to. And yeah, so we're just going to go into it. I would be playing this, like streaming myself on the ladder. Unfortunately, as you can see here, Haka is Roaring Moon. And Roaring Moon and all the other Paradox Pokemon are not actually allowed until February 1st. So I'm going to have to wait a week and a half before I can actually try this team out. Maybe I'll try it out on casuals. I don't know if the Paradox Pokemon are allowed in casuals. They probably are. Anyway, this team is built around the bread dog, Sana, or Doxbun, if you want to use the actual name and not my nickname. But why would you? It's really fun. Anyway, I decided to go with Doxbun because I love the idea of a bread dog. I have a bread dog myself. I just got it yesterday as of recording. If I am smart enough, I'll put a picture of it up right now. There we go. I love it. It's adorable. Anyway, so Doxbun, if we know what the stats of Doxbun is, very low HP, very low special attack. It's supposed to be a physical attacker. Physical attack is not great. It's at like 80 base stat total. Speed is good, but not like really good. It's somewhere around 94, 95, somewhere around that. Special defense is kind of low-ish at 80, but defense is really good at like 115, at least really good compared to every other stat. The ability, though, there are two abilities. The unique ability that Doxbun has is Well-Baked Body, which is what I'm basing this entire strategy around. Well-Baked Body makes Doxbun immune to fire moves, and its defense stat is sharply boosted whenever it takes whenever it would take damage or any kind of fire move is used against it. I've tested this out, and I don't think the fire move works whenever it's used at Doxbun. Most importantly, it means that Doxbun cannot be burned via fire moves, which I was a little bit worried about. I was debating whether I should get like a covert cloak for Sana here. Anyway, I think these abilities are really nice and nifty whenever you can use them. The biggest problem is that you either need to trigger them yourself, and you're wasting a turn from another Pokemon to be able to damage, quote unquote, damage your Pokemon to trigger it, or you have to be really good at predicting, or just kind of have someone who doesn't know what Well-Baked Body does, to try and trigger it. But we'll get into that later. I have built the team around actually triggering that myself. As far as the moves that I have, the only damaging move I have is Body Press. Body Press, if you are not aware, is a fighting move. It has 80 base power, so not like super high, but decent. But it hits physical defense, but instead of using your physical attack, it uses your physical defense. So we already have a Pokemon that has a high defense, and we're going to keep on increasing it with Well-Baked Body so that Body Press will be doing a lot of damage. I'll talk about Protect on Doxbun a little bit later, but it is important to the strategy. Agility I used so that I can get a speed boost, and the decent speed means that doubling that will make me faster than everything else unless someone else has some sort of speed control on their team, which, as far as I understand in the current meta, is not unusual. It'll also mean that if someone starts using a Trick Room set, this is going to be a problem. And I have Baton Pass. Baton Pass is really important for how I intend to use Doxbun here. It'll let me swap out to a different Pokemon, and most importantly, swap any of the boosts that I have gotten over to that Pokemon. So agility, speed boost will be swapped over to whatever Pokemon I want. Any of those defense boosts from Well-Baked Body will also swap over to whatever Pokemon I choose to swap over to. As far as Terra type here, We have fighting. Fighting is mostly an offensive Terra type. We can use it defensively because fighting is not weak to steel or poison, which are Fairy's two weaknesses, but mostly it's going to be doing more damage with body press if we need to. I also have Mental Herb here. Mental Herb says if anyone is using something that would prevent me from using my moves, like Taunt, Encore, stuff like that, Mental Herb, I use it up and I get to not be stuck in doing that. It is a one-use thing, but I assume that if I am ever going to be using Mental Herb, or if Mental Herb ever procs and I need to swap out to something else, Doc's Bun will, I'll probably, hopefully, quote unquote, like hopefully, fingers crossed, be able to baton pass, and my speed, if I've got an agility boost, will hopefully be good enough to actually go forward. I do have a defense increasing nature and an attack decreasing nature. The reason that I got the attack decreasing nature as opposed to something like special attack is because I don't have anything that uses my attack, and I want to try to minimize the amount of damage that I could take from confusion or foul play or something like that. I don't think foul play will come up all that often because both fairy and fighting resist dark, and it'll be hitting my defense anyway, which is going to be hopefully really high. It's mostly going to be to minimize the confusion damage that I can be dealing with myself. Plus, if there is a way, like lowering my special attack isn't really going to do anything, lowering my attack will. If we want to look at my EV investment, I have maxed out HP. This is because Doc's Bun has a really low HP. It's around 57 base stat total. I've also done a lot of special defense investment. This is something that, because I haven't played a lot of competitive Pokemon, I'm not sure is a good idea or not. Basically, my idea here is Doc's Bun has a low special defense, especially compared to defense. I want to try and shore up that weakness so that if something moves in and is going to be hitting for special defense, I can play around with that. Everything else I put into my defense boost just to make both my defense as well as my attacking stat even stronger, but I do have more special defense investment than I do have in my defense investment. I debated trying to get more speed investment, and I don't have any of that. My speed is as low as it can be without having a speed decreasing nature. I do have everything maxed out via hyper training, except for attack and special attack. No one cares about those. I'm not going to be using them. I didn't want to waste some money. I'm going to be relying mostly on agility if I need more speed. I'm going to be wasting turns for that, but I think I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, bulky enough to be able to reliably do that. So now we have Armarouge, Elite Miko here. I'm using Armarouge mostly for Lava Plume. If you don't know what Lava Plume is, Lava Plume torches everything in it in an Inferno, blah, blah, blah. It has a 30% chance to burn anyone that it hits, and it hits everyone on the field, except for the user. So it doesn't hit Armarouge, but it does hit both of the opponents, and more importantly, your teammate. So it will proc Well-Baked Body without, and I can still attack the enemy at the same time. This entire strategy is built around Lava Plume. I also have it on Ceruledge, who we will be talking about in a bit. 80 base power is okay. It's not great. I do have Armor Cannon down here to be able to do even more damage if I need it. Armor Cannon is a special fire move that acts like close combat. It lowers both of your defenses as you use them. Now, the other two moves that I have, Psychic Terrain, I don't have a way to set up Psychic Terrain except via Armarouge. It is going to be wasting a turn, but I think that is okay, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Then we have Expanding Force, which is, at least in this generation, unique to Armarouge. It has 80 base power, but that is deceptively tiny. I do get stab with everything here because I am fire psychic, but Expanding Force gets a 50% boost if it's on Psychic Terrain. That's in addition to the 30% boost that all psychic moves get on psychic terrain, and it will also hit both of the opponents instead of just one. I'm using flash fire here as opposed to weak armor. Weak armor says you get a speed boost, but you get a defense drop whenever someone makes, I think it's a contact move, I'm not sure. I do want to use flash fire for one reason I'll get into when I talk to Ceruledge. Ceruledge is also using flash fire. So I've gone with the Terra type of fire. I debated whether I wanted to go with a very defensive Terra type, but since I only have fire and psychic moves, I decided to go with a fire. This will give a boost to both Lava Plume and Armor Cannon, and more importantly, it will remove, I think, only my dark weakness. Psychic is weak to dark. Ghost. It'll also remove my ghost weakness. Technically, I would also be resisting bug now as opposed to being neutral to bug. The held item that I am using is going to be Psychic Seed. Psychic Seed is a very defensive item. Whenever I set up my psychic terrain, it'll give me a special defense boost. So one boost on top of my alright special defense. So the reason, there are three things that psychic terrain can be used for, and that's why I don't think it's as horrible as it might sound to have a primary attacker have this wasted turn of setting up psychic terrain. One is it'll boost Expanding Force. It'll boost any psychic moves that I happen to have. The only one that I have on my entire team is Expanding Force, so it'll make Expanding Force significantly better. Number two is it will prevent priority moves. So if I am worried about, say, Fake Out, if I'm worried about a Prankster Murkrow or anything like that, I can go ahead and throw a Psychic Terrain down and not have to worry about any kind of Prankster happening. Psychic Terrain will just nullify all of those priority moves. It'll also let me do certain things a lot easier. So for example, if I'm worried about some sort of priority move, KOing Sana before she has a chance to baton pass, I don't have to worry about that with psychic terrain. The only thing I have to worry about is making sure that I am faster than any of my opponents. And then the third use there is I do have a Psychic Seed that'll make me a little bit more defensive. It'll give me a huge special defense boost. So yes, I wouldn't be dealing damage whenever I throw down a Psychic Terrain with someone with such a high special attack, but I do get all three of those benefits, so I think it's an okay trade-off. If we look, I have a special attack increasing nature and attack decreasing nature. This is probably pretty standard. Special attack is by far Armarouge's highest stat total, so you get the most bang for your buck. I don't have any physically attacking moves, so all the attack stats are basically useless on here. Plus, it has the same benefit as I was talking about with Sana, where if I happen to be confused or foul played, I take less damage. Now, if we look at my EV investment, I've maxed out my special attack. Obviously, I want to get that as high as possible. I've not done any speed. The speed of Armarouge is so slow that I can't... Like, it's not slow, but it's not fast enough that I can try and make Armarouge a sweeper without any speed boosts. And if I'm going to go with speed boosts, hopefully the speed boost will just be good enough to work on its own. I do have quite a lot of special defense investment, and that is because I wanted to make my special defense comparable to my defense. The same strategy that I was talking about with Sana, where I want to shore up my weaknesses as opposed to play around my weaknesses. I don't know how that is going to work in competitive play. I'll have to find out just via experience, right? Everything else I put into HP. HP is already pretty decent. I think it's like 85. It's not like enormous or like huge or anything. I think Ceruledge and Armarouge are kind of frail-ish. They're not like frail, unless you have, weak armor or something. But yeah, so that's the strategy there. what I imagine I'm going to start out with, or tend to try to start out with, unless it seems like a bad idea, is having Armarouge and Darkspun on the field to start out with. I can start getting those lava plumes up, getting that defense up, try and do as much damage with Body Press as possible. Body Press is going to be resisted by some Pokemon types, Flying, Bug, I think there was one more, but it's going to do super effective damage to steel types, which is really good. That is one of Fairy's weaknesses. The only thing that's going to be a problem is going to be Ghost. Ghost is immune to fighting, so if I do run into, say, Goldingos or another Ghost Pokemon like Skeledirge that I just cannot use Sauna at, I'm probably going to try to baton pass sooner rather than later. And the reason that I went with Protect on Darkspun is because the two weaknesses that we have here are Steel and Poison. Armarouge handles both of them pretty easily. Steel is weak to fire, and we have an armor cannon if we need more damage. We also have Lava Plume just as something that we will be throwing out. To note, if I do Protect, I do not get the defense boost from Well-Baked Body because Protect will just block the fire damage coming in. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but if I need to get rid of a Steel type, I can. Poison is weak to Psychic, so I will be able to hopefully deal with any Poison Pokemon that coming out. That's kind of my strategy and rationale as to having Protect specifically on Darkspun. So we go into Ceruledge, Axel, my third Pokemon. I don't know. I haven't been keeping up super well with metas and whatnot, anything beyond what Wolfie VGC has been saying, which is fine. I mean, he does keep a really good eye on the competitive scene. He did play in the San Diego regionals, I think, but you know, if I'm only getting resources from one source, it's not going to be all inclusive probably. Anyway, Ceruledge, we have an attack increasing nature, special attack decreasing nature for a similar reason, but the opposite of Armarouge. Ceruledge is an attack-oriented Pokemon as opposed to a special attack-oriented Pokemon. I have Flash Fire for the same reason that I have Flash Fire on Armarouge. They can actually boost each other. And I'll talk about one thing that I could see if I'm not starting with Darkspun that could be really nasty in a bit. As far as moves, I have Bitter Blade. It's a unique move for Armarouge. 90 base power is okay, especially since it has no downside. It has 100 accuracy and it heals Ceruledge. So we're going to be doing plenty of damage and we'll be healing a lot. It'll keep Ceruledge on the field for longer. Phantom Force is the most powerful ghost move that I have access to. It is one of my stabs. I am planning on using this to check other ghost types if I need to, as well as any tricky psychic types. Mostly I just wanted to make sure that I had a decent stab that was not fire. Solar Blade I am specifically keeping to check any Pokemon that could deal damage, like super effective damage, to either Ceruledge or Armarouge. My team as a whole is very weak to ground. Solar Blade should be able to check those, I would hope, but it also checks things that like rock and water, which are also going to be dealing super effective damage to both of my fire Pokemon. And then I have Lava Plume. Lava Plume is the only special attack that I have here, and the reason that I have Lava Plume is the exact same reason that I have Lava Plume on Armarouge. I am using it to proc either Flash Fire or on Armarouge or Well-Baked Body on Sana. And this is where I think something could be really nasty. If I lead with both Elite Miko and Axel and I have them both turn 1 use Lava Plume, Ceruledge is faster than Elite Miko. Lava Plume would proc Flash Fire on Armarouge before Armarouge can even do anything. And if I decide to Terra type Fire on Armarouge, on Elite Miko, I would be doing 80 plus double stab plus flash fire boost all on turn 1. I think I did the calcs, and that's like 130 the effective 135 base power or something like that. It's amazing. Even if I don't want to waste my Terra type on just doing that, on turn 1 doing so much damage. Now, that being said, leading with 2 fire Pokemon may not be a wonderful strategy, so it's going to be something that I have to be able to know that I'm not just going to be like one hit KO'd or something like that by whatever the enemy has. So I'll have to, that'll be a kind of niche area, but I can see it being very, very powerful. If we want to look at my investments real quick, I have maxed out attack. I've also kind of gone with both of my defenses, both my special defense and my defense, as opposed to putting any EV investment into HP. I'm not doing speed investment for a similar reason. Like, we're kind of slow. We're at like 85 speed, so we're going to be like outspeeding any slow Pokemon, but it would be way too many resources to try and outspeed anything that's going to be a sweeper for me to even bother trying. I'm not doing anything with Lava Plume investment. I'm using it largely to be able to deal some damage to the enemy while also proccing Flash Fire or Well-Baked Body. The other thing to note is I specifically did not put any HP investment because Bitter Blade is going to be dealing health back. And if I have more HP, that means that I'm going to be losing more HP. If I can just take less damage to begin with by having higher defenses, I think I'm going to be getting more use out of Bitter Blade. We'll have to see how this works in practice. I don't know yet. I might want to swap some of my defensive investments to just have higher HP, because if you have higher HP, it's less likely, I think, to be one-shot, even if you're not getting as much use out of Bitter Blade's healing, because you're more likely to not heal up all the way, you know? Not that I think you'll be healing up all the way regardless, but we'll see. Nope, not what I wanted. Check summary. I do want to see... I have Grass Terra type. I have Grass Terra type because Grass resists Fire's 2 main weaknesses, Water and Ground, and I did mention that we have a pretty big ground weakness. I also have a Power Herb. The Power Herb is a 1-use item. It'll make Phantom Force and Solar Blade, which both take a turn to charge, happen in 1 turn. So if I need to be able to hit like a oh shoot button and Solar Blade a ground Pokemon or a water Pokemon or anything weak to grass, I just can. And similarly, if something like an Annihilate shows up or a Skeledirge that I need to use my Phantom Force immediately, I can. So I'm hoping that'll be good. We'll see. Next, we have Roaring Moon. This is the Pokemon that is keeping me from playing competitive right now. So Roaring Moon has a really good speed and a really good attack. Its ability is Photosynthesis. This is the same ability as all the Paradox Pokemon. I think it's called something different for the future Paradox Pokemon. I'm too lazy to figure it out. They're all procced by Booster Energy, which is my held item, as well as it's Sunny Day, like bright sun coming down for all the past Paradox Pokemon, and Electric Terrain for all the future Paradox Pokemon. So Booster Energy says you expend this, Photosynthesis will give you a 30% boost on whatever your highest stat is. Now, I haven't tested this, but I have tested this. Attack is the highest stat by far that Roaring Moon has, that Haka right here has. The biggest problem is if I Baton Pass from Sana, Haka will have a higher speed than attack, and the speed will be boosted. So this is something that I'll have to play around. It's something that I'll just have to acknowledge as a possibility that's going to happen. It's also very possible that a defense boost will actually get up there as well. So if I don't have any speed boosts, or if I have a ton of defense boosts, my defense will get higher, which is not the worst thing in the world, but it also makes Roaring Moon or Haka less of a sweeper. I don't want to use Sun, which is why I do not have Sunny Day on any of my Pokemon. I want to use booster energy. I want to expend booster energy, and that's because I want to use acrobatics if I can. Acrobatics normally has a power of 55, but if you don't have a held item, that boosts up to a 110. And I specifically have a flying terror type to get stab on top of that 110, which makes acrobatics by far the most damaging move if I Terra and if I expend my booster energy. This is pretty similar, from what I understand, to the using a flying gem when those existed, which will boost your next flying move, and you also just get rid of your held item to boost acrobatics at the same time. So I'm kind of using that strategy. I don't think this is going to be unusual. I suspect that other people will be using this. Flying also has the advantage defensively of resisting fighting, which is going to be super effective against the dark type, as well as being immune to ground, which I kind of wanted for my team, just because I have 3 Pokemon that are all going to be weak to ground. Now, the bad side is that flying is still weak to ice, so if anything is going to be using an ice move to attack my dragon, guess what? I'm still going to be weak to it. The moves that I have here are acrobatics. I explained Dragon Claw is not the most damaging move that I could have that is dragon type, but I chose it because I much more value having the 100% accuracy than I do having a little bit more power. And I think with this massive attack stat, I think Dragon Claw is still going to be dealing damage. I might change my mind when I play the game and I realize, oh, if I had this other dragon move, like Dragon Rush, I think. I'm not... Actually, I can probably check that really quick here. If I had... Yeah, Dragon Rush. If I had a Dragon Rush or something, maybe I would be able to one-hit KO Pokemon that I can't with a Dragon Claw. But when I was looking at this 20 more power, 20 more power for a 25% drop in accuracy did not seem worth it to me. Dragon Rush does have the benefit of proccing Flinch, so that could be something that I might want to reconsider, but we'll see. I chose Throat Chop as one of the 2 most damaging dark type moves that Roaring Moon has access to. The other one is Jaw Lock. Jaw Lock just keeps them both on the field. I can see that being useful, but I'd rather, for the time being, be able to like swap out if I need to. Also, Throat Chop gets rid of any sound-based attack. So if there is a Noivern out there trying to use Boom Burst, or if there's a Skeledirge using Torch Song, I can just kind of shut that down immediately. Throat Chop being super effective against Skeledirge's Ghost type is just an added benefit on top of that. I'm running Protect here because I didn't see any other good like coverage moves that I would want to carry that my team didn't already have. Like fire moves were in there, and I already have 2 fire Pokemon, so it didn't seem useful. I don't have any particular ideas on what I would use Protect for, like any kind of threats that I have in mind for that, but I think it would be good to have regardless. So that's kind of what I'm playing with Roaring Moon. So ideally I would be boosting the attack to make it even higher, but it's very possible with Sauna on the field that I would be boosting speed to make myself even faster and more likely to outspeed even Tailwind users potentially, or defense, which will just make me bulkier. So I have Tinkaton, Kyla here. I'm not going to lie, I'm keeping Kyla because I just love her. She is the only Pokemon out of this entire team that I used on my main playthrough of the game, and it took quite a lot of berries to get rid of the EV investment that I already had just by playing the game normally. So the move, I chose Own Tempo as opposed to Mold Breaker. Mold Breaker is really good if you're carrying Fake Out because you can flinch any Pokemon that is just not immune to secondary... No, you make them. Yeah, Mold Breaker will get through Shield Dust and anything else that would make them immune to flinching. Like, I forget what ability is, but there's another ability that makes you immune to flinching. It does not, I think, cancel Covert Cloak. But I chose Untempo because I don't have any specific moves that would really be useful for. I'm not carrying Fake Out for a reason. I mean, there's no real reason. I think I would be carrying Fake Out if I wanted to make Tinkaton more of a support Pokemon. I'm using Tinkaton more as a coverage move as well as something just super tanky. So Untempo prevents confusion. It prevents intimidate. It means if you want to nerf her attack, you have to explicitly do it via some sort of move as opposed to relying on intimidate. If we're talking about what moves I am going with, Play Rough is the go-to fairy damaging move, which is stab. It's good. Gigaton Hammer is an amazing move, 160 base power. You can't use it twice in a row, and that's the only downside, which is not that much of a downside because pumping out that much damage every single round would be broken. I'm using Ice Hammer for coverage. It hits 4 types for super effective, including Dragon isn't going to be useful, I guess, but it would be useful for all the other ones. So for flying, it would be useful for grass. It would be useful for whatever the last one is. Ground, I think. It'd be really good for ground. Skitter Smack I mostly used for Terra type, but it does have another benefit, which I'm going to talk about. I chose Terra type Bug because I wanted a ground resist, basically. I wanted a ground resist, and I didn't want... Yeah, that's it. I wanted a ground resist. I don't think Tinkaton learns any grass moves. And I thought, well, if I want something that's going to be useful both offensively and defensively, I have Skitter Smack. And I just kind of was like, okay, I guess I can carry Skitter Smack as a Terra stab. Now, I thought about this, and I looked at it when I was looking at the moves a little bit earlier. This always lowers the target's special attack. It's a 100% chance to lower the special attack. So I could definitely see some uses where I just go out there and I start Skitter Smacking, say, a Goldingo. Skitter Smack is not going to do a lot of damage to a Goldingo because Goldingo is Steel Ghost. Both of those resist Bug, I think. No, actually, no. Ghost resists Poison, not Bug. Regardless, Skitter Smack is not going to do a lot of damage to a Goldingo, but lowering that special attack means that Make It Rain is going to be doing even less damage than it normally would just from the nerfs that it gets by using it, right? So, yeah, I think that Skitter Smack is actually going to have some very interesting niche uses to be able to nerf an opponent while still dealing damage. I have Assault Vest. That's part of the reason that I have all attacking moves. Assault Vest, you cannot use status moves, but you have a boost of 50% increase to your special defense. Tinkaton is already incredibly specially defensive, so adding Assault Vest on top of that means that we're going to have even more special defense. You notice here, it doesn't look like Tinkaton is very specially defensively oriented. And that's because I put a ton of investment to defense and I maxed out my attack. I want to try and deal as much damage as I can because I am using Tinkaton as like a little bit of a coverage person. So like a coverage dealer who the rest of my team can't deal with. So I did put a ton of investment into defense with Assault Vest and a boost via Sauna, if we actually get that out there, like, and the amazing typing that Steel Fairy is, we're gonna be really good offensively. Tinkaton has a decent amount of HP. I think it's like 80, 85, somewhere around there. I might want to do some HP investment. We'll see. I do have a speed increasing nature. I do want to try and outspeed enemies, and I think having someone, because Tinkaton's speed is somewhere around 96-ish, I think. Anyway, I might want to change this up and just have the attack increasing nature as opposed to a speed increasing nature. I do want to try and go first, and if I have an agility boost on top of this from Sana, I think it'll be okay. I did go with Bug, which means regardless, I'm still going to be weak to fire. I don't think with this team that is going to be a huge deal because I have 3 other Pokemon that are just immune to fire. One thing that I did not mention, one thing that's going to be a little bit iffy is if an enemy does put up Sunny Day or make the sun bright and I can't use my booster energy, Acrobatics isn't going to work. Like, it'll still be there, but I won't get the boost of not having a held item. So that's going to be a little bit of a thing that I need to play around just to understand. But Sunny Day also boosts Ceruledge and Armarouge even more than Flash Fire. Like, it's the same boost, 50% boost. I think it might be double. I have to look at that. But I have enough Pokemon that can make use of Sunny Day that I don't think it's a huge problem with the Roaring Moon. But yeah, so having something that's still weak to fire, bug type not really great defensively, I don't think it's a huge problem because I do have other Pokemon that can deal with that. Goodra. Goodra is probably the most swappable Pokemon that I had out here. I was thinking about using a Slowbro or a Slowking instead of Goodra. I am using Goodra almost exclusively for special attacking threats. So one thing that I'm very cognizant of is Dondozo being big in the meta. So I have Thunder for Dondozo. And if someone actually sets out a Rainy Day, I have 100% accurate Thunder. If someone sets out Snowstorm, I think I have 100% accurate, like, Blizzard. Like, these are things that I can make use of here. I do have Protect. I don't have anything specific in mind that I would be protecting from Protect, like something that I can maybe kill with one of my other Pokemon. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I think it's probably better to have than not to have. I am also carrying a wide lens here. Hydro Pump is water coverage. It has 80 accuracy. It'll be close to 90 accuracy with a wide lens. Blizzard, 70 accuracy. It'll get close to 80 accuracy with a wide lens. Same thing with Thunder. So the big reason, the only thing that I would think that I would want to swap just for more coverage, I decided not to go with the Dragon move because Dragon only hits Dragon super effectively, and I already have Blizzard for that. It doesn't seem super useful. It seems a little bit redundant. I'd probably be able to get more mileage out of a Dragon move if I were specifically hitting Dragon Pokemon because I would have Stab. But I think Blizzard will be fine in that case. I might change my mind. And if I do change my mind, I might think about changing this wide lens to maybe a choice specs so that I get even higher special attack and I can just try and do more damage than I am otherwise. I've also debated getting an expert belt because I'm using Goodra here to be a very like a check for all the Pokemon that my team cannot handle. So yeah, we'll see. I do have a water Terra type, and I have a water Terra type because I have Sap Sipper. Sap Sipper says you're immune to grass type moves, but you get an attack boost whenever you are hit by a grass type move. I'm not using any attacking moves. All my moves are using my special attack as opposed to my attack, so I'm not really using Sap Sipper's secondary ability of this stat boost, but I am using it because if I Terra type into water, I only have electricity as a weakness. So I think having Goodra with only one weakness is really good. As far as my investments, I've maxed out my special attack. I've almost maxed out my defense, but I've increased my HP just a little bit. I think I have a few more HP than I normally would. this is because the same thing I've been saying with everyone else. I want to shore up my weaknesses as opposed to playing around my weaknesses, especially since I'm using this as like a Dondozo counter, and Dondozo is probably going to be carrying physical attacking moves. I want to make sure that I can actually use, like, actually stand up to some stuff. And with a defense boost here or there from Sana, I think this can really tank whatever's coming in. Without a defense boost, Gudra is kind of on the weak defensive, like physically side. So I might be relying on that. We'll have to see. Yeah, so that is Kaicho, by the way. Kaicho is my Gudra. The little Gumi that I had throughout the game before I specifically went out to get a Sepsipper was Coco. So I needed a new name for a new Gudra. So yeah, that is what I'm thinking about for my team. That is, yeah, I think I went over everything. So this is the team that I'm really excited to play with. It is, I'm going to be naming it Baking Bread. Hopefully it comes out, hopefully it does well. I'm really excited to play with it. This is the first competitive team. This is the first time I've tried to play competitively, so we'll see how it goes. I don't know what the meta is going to look like, but I have heard hints that Roaring Moon is going to be pretty big in the meta, and I think Armarouge is also really big in the meta, but I haven't heard anyone talking about Darkspun. I think Gudra is pretty on the low side as far as the meta goes. I don't know if Kyla or Tinkaton sees a lot of play, so there's a lot of off-meta builds here. I'm not really doing any speed control, and I am thinking about the meta when I'm thinking about stuff like Goldingo, when I'm thinking about what else is there. Goldingo is big in the meta. Murkrow is big in the meta. So I am thinking about it, especially when I was like, Psychic Field can shut down a lot of what a Murkrow can do other than throw out a haze, I guess. But I'm not necessarily playing with the meta because I don't, like, who cares, right? I'd rather have fun. I'd rather find a Pokemon like this adorable little Sana bread dog here to have fun with. And if it becomes competitive, if it's something that can play around with, awesome. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. Hopefully you are having fun playing competitive Pokemon too, or you found this like deep dive into whatever my team is interesting. Yeah, that's gonna be it. Bye.